It's amazing to think that you can buy a vehicle that's over 20 years old and still have it be a perfectly fine daily driver. The vehicle on my left is a 1999 Lincoln Town Car. It had only 70,000 miles on it, and it was owned by, not too surprisingly, a retired couple that recently decided to stop driving. They were in their 90s. And this is a touring edition. This is a very unique version of a Signature Series. And I'm showing you the worst before I show you the best today, specifically because I want to show you the reality of the car business. There's a lot of different places that will glorify whatever they get and say, oh, this is all peaches and cream. This is the greatest thing in God's green earth. Well, this was $2,500. And I ended up having two surprises with it. First of all, when I got it, there was water all over the inside down here. It wasn't like a half-inch deep or anything like that, but the carpet was completely soaked. And so what I did was I put a fan on pretty much for 12 hours a day, along with some damp rid. And now it is dry, but I'm still not out of the woods. There was a rainstorm last night, and nothing came in. So for right now, I know that the seal around the windshield and the driver's door are doing what they should. But that doesn't mean that's not leaking internally from somewhere within either the AC system. And although I didn't smell anything sweet, if I had smelled something that was reminiscent of coolant, that would pretty much be the heater core. Now, this particular one had one other surprise to it that I figured out before I bought it, which was they announced it as having a salvage title to it and it being a total loss. This was at a CarMax sale. And at the CarMax sales, there's a lot of competition. There's about oftentimes 200 to 300 dealers who have the opportunity to bid on the same vehicle. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to bid on your vehicle or compete against you in buying that vehicle, but you do have your share of competition. However, when I looked at the Carfax history, I didn't see a salvage history to it. I didn't see any salvage title, and lo and behold, what I see before me now is a clean title in the state of Tennessee. Now, there's also a lot of paperwork over here. I'm going to do it like this just so the person's name doesn't come out. And whenever someone dies or they become incapacitated or they have issues related to Alzheimer's or other memory-related issues, they'll end up having a power of attorney done, which will dictate more or less that somebody is going to be liquidating this vehicle on their behalf. And this is not an uncommon thing in this line of work. Oftentimes I'll get vehicles that have proof of the person passing. I'll also get some vehicles that will have paperwork from law offices and elsewhere showing that, guess what, this person who is absolutely wonderful during their time here is no longer with us. And as you can see here, I'm going to have to do a couple other minor things. This over here is a paint transfer, and I can easily get that off without much of a problem. I'm going to have to replace this passenger side mirror, and this one's going to be a bit more of a challenge because getting one in white that isn't faded like crazy is not an easy thing to do. In fact, I found a grand total of one white one in the entire USA that's available right now between Carpart, it's car-part.com. They have a ton of parts there, and also eBay. And this one that's going to replace it is coming from eBay. Now, on the flip side of it, this Celica I got for $3,000. And doesn't really look that nice. It's a typical trade-in. That's a sporty one. You're going to have a bunch of leftover stuff all over the floor. some dirt that's on the inside. But this GTS I got for only $3,000, and it has only 100,000 miles on it. And I'm going to go ahead and just start this particular one real quick, just to show you. Well, gotta flip it over. There we go. $101,373. The serpentine belt doesn't need to be tightened on it, and I did replace the oxygen sensor on it as well. But for what ended up being roughly, when you include the auction fee, $3,300, it's one heck of a good buy.
Ask those numbers, nor do I want to mask those numbers. The public deserves.
The AC works fine on it.
Wasn't a horrible car accident. I listened to your show, and you always say.
I'm not a big fan of the music stations I'm getting right now, but overall, this vehicle rides and drives perfectly fine. I drove it a good 20 miles yesterday. And you got a nice little sunroof on here. And thankfully there's also no leakage. I'm estimating, I'll give you a good view of the back seats as well. I'm estimating that once I replace these wheels, which are hopelessly pitted, I will probably sell this for right around $6,500 to $6,900. And once I take care of that mirror right there and trace down where the leak is, although it may not be a leak at all, it's a possibility that they left this partially down at the auction. I've seen that more than a few times. I'll be selling this one with 70,000 miles on it and absolutely perfect. By the way, both of these vehicles were dealer maintained since day one, and that's a huge advantage if you want to get a good price for whatever it is you sell. If you can prove that it was maintained the right way, it usually adds another $1,000 to the price, even on the low end. On the higher end, you can get around $1,500 to $2,000 more than the typical seller if you know how to market it correctly. This town car will go for, I would say, right around $5,900 with 70,000 miles on it. It's a non-rust vehicle. Spent its entire life in Chattanooga. It's possible to get more, but there's so many of these things out there. Oh God, if you go on Auto Trader or Facebook Marketplace, you'll see that in the rural areas especially, a lot of folks use these as retiree vehicles and they just let time pass by. But the Celica over here is more of a rare bird, although in some ways it's fun to drive, but I have to figure out a couple of things. I think these wheels actually came off of a GT instead of a GTS. And this one has an excellent history to it as well. And I'm frankly thinking that this is going to end up going for more money, even though these tend to go for a more affluent audience typically. There's just, there's a lot of Grand Marquis and a lot of town cars. There aren't a lot of Celicas with only 101,000 miles. So, I hope you enjoyed this brief little conversation this morning, and hope you have a wonderful day.